Good morning. Nice to see you all. When we started our tour on Monday in Meridian, I introduced myself as a preschool teacher at heart, but now that I've done the same presentation 5 times, I'd like to say that my new title is a professional speaker, and I used to be a preschool teacher. So, but I'm really happy to be here today. I have taught preschool for a number of years, and I'm so thrilled to see so many people that are not educators and not the typical people that I get to present to see the business people actually really interested in what we know about young children. I have to start my story today about myself, and a story about me first is that when I was 19 years old, I had a car accident. I was someone ran a red light and ran into the side of my vehicle. I had 150 stitches in my face and multiple surgeries because of it. And I was sitting there thinking, what did I really want to do with my life? I really was amazed that I was given this new opportunity, and at my young years never thought something like that could happen. So it was really at that point in my life that I decided that my most rewarding thing to me was working with small children and working with kids. So I went on and finished my degree, and my parents were really happy because my grades got a whole lot better after that. And I went on to become a teacher. I've worked over 15 years in the field, and many of the children I've worked with have all grown up and moved on and have a lot of different paths in which they've taken and are all part of the workforce today. But the point being is that I was able to touch the lives of many children, thousands of children when I added them up one day, because of a decision I made when I was 19 years old. So I was thinking about everyone in this room, if everyone in this room made a decision today to be an advocate for young children, what an impact that could make on the life of a child and the life of our future in Mississippi. So I want to start with, I always do this with the clicker, hang on. Here's our lesson for the day, as any good teacher would do. Outline the objectives. 700 per second, 9 months of age, 2-to-1 ratio, and 3-to-1 odds. That's what we're going to learn about today. And what that is 700 neuron connections per second happen in the life of a child in the first few years of life. 9 months of age is the first time where you can note a measurable difference in the cognitive development of a child from a low socioeconomic status family versus middle to high income. 2-to-1 ratio is the number of vocabulary words that a child from from middle to high income family knows twice as many words as they enter kindergarten as that of, or actually by the age of 3, of those from middle to low income. And then 3-to-1 odds. 3-to-1 odds are if you have more than 6 negative, highly stressful early childhood experiences, you have a 3-to-1 odds of ever completing high school. So what I'm not going to talk about today, I'm not talking about mandatory preschool. I'm not talking about every child's better in a preschool or daycare center than they are in the home with 2 loving parents or 1 primary caregiver. I'm not talking about adding another grade to the education system, and I'm not asking for any money today, so it's an amazing thing. But I do want to talk to you about quality of early childhood education, what's happening and why it's important based on what we know about the brain research. So the quick lesson for the day is we're all born with 200 billion neurons at birth. And neurons, when something is interesting to you at birth, you can see there's just a few connections happening there. As a young baby, you actually, your neurons fire towards each other. If I'm interested in this microphone, as a baby, you'd start continuing to try to touch it. And until you mastered touching an object, that synapse forms after the 2 neurons fire. So the more experiences you have, the more chance and the more brain that you grow, the more synapses and connections that you make. So look how many that are happening by 6 years old. We know that we actually overproduce synapses by 6 years old. It's the most growth in your brain that will ever occur. 14 years old, you see kind of a pruning process of those synapses that weren't necessary, and that's about how your brain scan and mine would look today. So we invest the least amount of money, so to speak, in early childhood education, but it's the time that your brain grows the most. This is a slide related, again, to the brain, and this is a healthy child's brain on the left and a a child who's had a traumatic or negative early childhood experience on the right, you'll see the white lining on the brain scan, it's an MRI scan on the left, being somewhat thinner than the brain scan on the right. See the white lining is thicker. That actually indicates atrophy or shrinkage in the brain for the child who had a neglectful experience. There's actually less brain by the age of 11 years old. And the two triangles in the middle that you see on the left, those are lateral ventricles. They actually enlarge on the right, which actually denotes an enlargement in the cerebral cortex, which occurs because of a negative experience in your life. A larger cerebral cortex actually is linked to lower IQ. So this is scientific evidence that if you have negative experiences early on in your life, it actually affects the way your brain functions for the rest of your life. So it makes a lot of sense to me to start thinking about what is happening with our children prior to that age. This is one of the most recent studies that is hot off the press, so to speak. And many other states, when you saw the slide about how much money they're putting into early childhood education, they actually didn't have this data when they made those decisions about starting a pre-K program. This data shows that low income, the asterisk is middle to high income children. So if you're from a family, this is 11,000 children nationwide studied. It's a huge sample. The asterisk is middle to high income families. The yellow bar is where the low income children rated on the Bailey Cognitive Assessment. So you can see at 9 months of age, for the first time, that child, if you're from a low-income family, it's already a measurable difference at 9 months of age. And the gap gets even wider at 24 months of age. You can see that by 2 years old, there is a huge difference in the brain development cognitively of a young child. So this is a very significant study for us. And I mentioned vocabulary as well, and I do want to point out that at birth, the studies are showing that a lot of times when children live in homes of poverty, which we know a large number, actually more children live in poverty in Mississippi than any other state, let me put it that way. See how everybody starts off together, same amount of brain neurons, they're moving up, and if you're from a low-income family, by the age of 3, do you see that it's double the amount of vocabulary words? Homes of low-income families often have directives in terms of vocabulary: sit down, be quiet, do this, do that. Homes with 2 college-educated parents in it are much more interactive. So my daughter, when she was younger and started kindergarten, I remember her teacher telling me, well, Laurie, I have kids in my class that are ready to read and already have a huge vocabulary, and she said, and then I have kids in my class that have never held a fork before. So we're asking these teachers to do a lot. There's a huge gap well before 5 years of age that's already there. But again, the least amount of time and our knowledge base so far has not been focusing on this area.